Caloroga Shark Media.
Hello, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Dave Chappelle recently played the Abu Dhabi Comedy Week. The national news was there to see the show, which is good because Chappelle does that whole thing with the yonder pouches, so you never get any clips from a Chappelle show, but we still find out what you're talking about. Dave, the national news writes, Chappelle entered this year's show with a hooded falcon on his arm. Dave said this bird has never been on stage before. He said the sport of falconry is an apt metaphor for where he's at professionally. No longer does Chappelle want to go on the hunt simply to sustain himself. Instead, he wants a career trajectory similar to a falconer, one where he is in total command and can bow out at a time of his choosing. That's aggressive there. Wow, what kind of show is this? Chappelle joked Abu Dhabi Comedy Week stymied that plan with its lucrative offer to headline the festival after his reportedly final Netflix special, The Closer, last year. That's all in jest. Dave warned the audience, I'm telling you right now, I'm rusty, but it'll come good. Dave made pointed observations about the Israel-Gaza war and talked about that on Saturday. He used the word genocide and the U.S. elections and the history of the African-American civil rights movement. He also made, quote, obscene ruminations on friends and family. At the end, Dave said, the fact that you guys are doing this festival here is one of the most powerful things that is happening in this world. I was told before stepping on this stage, this is the biggest comedy show that the Middle East has ever seen. Mark my words, I'll be back. Celebrity hot dog enthusiast Patton Oswalt, you know, sometimes he goes out for a hot dog and he has to text before he goes because of the crowds. He's surprised how much of his Parks and Recreation character's fanboy filibuster scene ended up coming true. Back in 2013, Patton played a character. He engages in a filibuster. His speech slowly devolves into the character pitching an idea for a Marvel and Star Wars crossover film. Patton told Jimmy Kimmel. So the scene was supposed to be that I announced I'm going to do this filibuster, and then they cut to Amy's character, Leslie, just going, oh, dear God. And that would be the joke. And then the directors and the writers said, let's not yell cut and let's just see how long he'll talk. That's hilarious. His character mentions Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet as a way to link the two cinematic universes together. Marvel hadn't done Guardians of the Galaxy. When I say time gem, they cut to Chris Pratt. That was way before he did Guardians. Also, Amy has the funniest line in the whole thing when she says the female's parts are a little underwritten, which is so exactly what those movies were. This is awesome. Patton continues, when the Book of Boba Fett came on Disney+, creator Jon Favreau confirmed to me they cut the opening scene to match my filibuster. You can sync them up time-wise. It pans down from the twin suns. The hand comes out of the sand. You can match it up to my filibuster. They did that on purpose. In 2021, Patton tweeted, to say I'm touched is putting it lightly. And yeah, Book of Boba Fett, you're welcome. Jesus Trejo has a new PBS show, Roots of Comedy, about the lives, families, and experiences of rising comedians. Trejo was one of the 10 comics to watch back in 2017. Also on that list, Tiffany Haddish and Hassan Minhaj. Let's look at the rest of the list. I'm curious now. I'm going to make sure it's the right list. There are several lists. I assume it's the variety one. That's usually the big one. All right, that year, Brian Jordan Alvarez, all right, Roy Butcher, Veer Daz, Lisa Traeger. Pretty good, right? Pretty good. Trejo says, one of the things I pride myself in is that I talk about my upbringing, my family, the things I feel I'm an expert on, which is my lived experience. He highlighted the story of Vanessa Gonzalez as an example. One of the jokes she talks about is that her parents are from Mexico and they ended up working for the Border Patrol. The punchline is like traitors, but then we cut to her family story and we realize it's complex. That's the reality. That was the industry that existed in her hometown. My rich upbringing as a Mexican-American in Long Beach with immigrant parents is the basis for my storytelling. I can bring that storytelling and that experience to any project I take on. The Hollywood Reporter profiled Alana Glazer. She talked about filming her stand-up special and said, the first night I felt a little tight and nervous, but the second night was so silly and kinetic, and I took pleasure in every single moment. It was a blessing. There's this feminine energy of the universe that I've been tapping into more and more. It feels sort of like receiving whatever's happening and dealing with both the positive and the negative. The Hollywood Reporter says back in 2019 on the Las Culturistas podcast, she talked about feeling connected to masculine energy. Alana said, that's so interesting. Wow, it's funny. It's hard for me to ever go back and look at stuff I've done. Rami Youssef just sent me a screenshot from the pilot of Broad City. It cracked me up to think about that part of the show and how it was 10 years ago, but I really couldn't go back to that place in my mind. Like I'll never go back and listen to myself on Las Culturistas, but I find it really interesting that I spoke about that at the time. Seems people really like Shane Gillis' Tires series. I watched one episode on Friday night, I think it was. Yeah, I thought about it a lot, even was dreaming about the show. The folks in the Facebook group, which is Daily Comedy News Podcast Group, please join us. They're all buzzing about it. Seems everyone digging that one. Looking forward to it. Just can't find a minute to watch TV sometimes. Brendan Schaub says he would beat the bleep out of Joe Rogan were they to have an MMA fight. Which reminds me, months ago challenged Joe Rogan to an MMA fight, and he has not taken me up on it. Is it because he's afraid of me? Probably, right? Yes. Schaub at one time was a UFC heavyweight contender, so yeah, he probably would do very well against Joe Rogan, who, by the way, Joe Rogan is going to lose to me should he take me up on the challenge. Are you afraid, Joe? Schaub says Rogan's good, though. He has immense lower body strength and an extensive background in jiu-jitsu. Can Joe kick? Absolutely. For a guy who's never competed professionally, he can kick like a mother effer. I don't know how to clean that up. Leave it in. If you put him against any celebrity out there, he's going to beat the bleep out of them. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. It's that civilian aspect. He's a monster. Why is he afraid of me, though? Come on, Joe. Let's go. Let's do this. You got to realize, though, I was ranked in the top 10 in the world, so it's just different. I would beat the bleep out of Rogan. Dextero has compared them. Rogan, 5'6", 200 pounds. Schaub, 6'4", 245. Yeah, that's what I'm not challenging Schaub. I'm not crazy, but Joe Rogan, bring it, dude. What are you afraid of? You're afraid of something, apparently. Hans Kim, you may know him from Kill Tony. I saw Kill Tony was way up on the podcast charts. Tom Brady says you're welcome. Distractify was wondering what has happened to Hans Kim. Hans was a regular on the Kill Tony podcast. Distractify writes, about a year ago, fans started noticing a drop in Hans Kim's material's quality. As the opinion circulated, Tony began putting Hans up to battle other comedians to keep his position as a regular. He apparently hasn't been on Kill Tony in a few months. He used to perform every single week. Fans have noticed. On the Reddits, fans have said that Hans's 2-hour shows are fantastic, so perhaps he's grown out of the 1-minute Kill Tony format. I gotta fact check that. 2-hour shows? A guy who was doing a minute is now doing 2 hours? Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, etc. don't do 2 hours. 2 hours of stand-up comedy is a lot. I don't know about that one. From the Newport News, a comedy bus wants to take people around Newport, but one counselor says it's no laughing matter. Love this one. Apparently, a comedy tour bus hopes to come to Newport. Counselor Jean Marie Napolitano said, they act like it's some kind of public conveyance that people can get around downtown, and no, it's for them to make money, period. End of story. And all these people, you know, you go out and you have a cookout in your yard or something, and they can't enjoy their family there without a bus going by and narrating God knows what. That's what it's about. Comedy Bus LLC operates its 90-minute bus tours around Providence. The usual tours start at Brass Monkey Bar and Grill and make one short stop at a local restaurant or brewery. Guests can bring alcohol, although not hard liquor, onto the bus and sip while listening to a local comic acting as the tour guide. The buses that Comedy Bus LLC uses for its tours are old-school buses that have had the windows removed and replaced with clear vinyl siding that can be opened. With the addition of the comedian using a microphone and the company's promise of R-rated shows, Napolitano says she was concerned about how the tour might impact local residents. That's fair. We don't need people saying naughty things out the window. We definitely don't need that. I mean, are you Joe Coy? We're clean. What is wrong with you people? Napolitano said, can you imagine somebody standing around with their kids and all of a sudden hear F this or something? That doesn't work for me or anybody else. All right, what if we do a clean comedy bus? Are you okay with it then? And that's your comedy news for today. I feel like I'm supposed to say something witty now. I got nothing. See you tomorrow.